In 2021, I hit a wall. And I was doing everything that the self-help world told me to do. I was journaling, meditating, taking cold showers, working out, eating clean, doing everything. But I realized that my life wasn't actually getting better. In my head, I convinced myself that I just needed to push harder. If I just stayed disciplined long enough, that maybe one day success would show up. But here's the truth that nobody talks about. Most of those things are just surface level productivity, and they're masking deeper issues that at the time I wasn't really ready to face. Everything changed once I read this book, Way of the Superior Man by David Deida, and an even more important book that I'll talk about when we get into Law 10. These two books really opened my eyes and made me realize that I had been going about self-improvement completely wrong. So this isn't just another motivational list. These are 10 self-improvement laws that will change how you think, act, and live. So my goal is that by the end of this video, you'll walk away with principles that actually create lasting change, rather than just another random list that encourages you to take another cold shower. Law number 1, your fantasy of a future life is just that, a fantasy. It's so easy to romanticize this perfect dream life, the lifestyle, the success, the freedom, but unless you do the hard, often boring work it takes to achieve that life, it'll stay exactly what it is now, which is a fantasy. Growing up, I used to dream about living like a really impressive, lavish lifestyle. We're told when we're young that we can achieve anything that we want to achieve. Even though this is true, no one really talks about the hard work that will be required in order for you to achieve whatever goal it is that you want. But what I've noticed is that the people who make it is not because they're more talented. It's really because they're willing to pay the price, whether that's in sacrifice and discipline and hard work and consistency. They're able to pay this price long after their motivation has worn off. Law number 2, you have to lean beyond your edge. There's a quote that I think summarizes this very well. A man's growth is optimized if he leans just beyond his edge, his capacity, his fear. He should lean just slightly beyond the edge of fear and discomfort, constantly in everything he does. Comfort is a drug, and it kills dreams slowly. And there's a saying that I once heard that really impacted me and changed this perspective for me completely. It goes, give a weak person consistent stimulation, good food, and cheap entertainment, and they'll throw their ambitions right out the window. Comfort is where dreams go to die. After I graduated college, I worked for almost a year at a pharmaceutical company. It was a very comfy, flexible job that paid well and gave me a lot of flexibility and free time. And I honestly could have worked that job for years and just rode it into the sunset and cashed easy paychecks. But a problem with that job is that I had no upward mobility, and people had been in that job for multiple years, 3, 4, 5 years without ever having a promotion. Personally, I just knew that that wasn't in line with what I wanted from a career. I also knew that if I stayed any longer than a year at that job, that I would be stuck just like the rest of them for who knows how long. Looking back, I am so happy that I took the initiative to lean just beyond my edge and find a career that I now find very fulfilling and also challenging, because I didn't allow myself to get comfortable in a cushy situation. Law number 3, the journey never ends. Most men make the mistake of thinking one day it will be done, that eventually they'll get to rest. But the truth is, it never ends. There is no final destination, no point where you officially arrive, or a point in which life stops demanding more of you. So after I graduated grad school, I felt stuck for a couple of months. It wasn't because I wasn't doing anything, but it's because I had nowhere to point my ambition. And I had made the fatal mistake of thinking that obtaining the degree was the final destination. But what I've learned is that if you're ambitious, every win just makes you hungrier, and there's always another mountain to climb. Law number 4 is that you have to learn to enjoy your friends' criticism. About once a week, you should sit down with your closest friends and discuss what you're doing with your life and what you're afraid of doing. The conversation should be short and simple. You should state where you are in life, and then your friend should give you a behavioral experiment, something you can do that will reveal something to you or grant you more freedom in life. Rather than running from criticism, you should actually seek it out. I think that that's the cheat code to having rapid success. Most people in life, they try to avoid criticism. I think that's why they stay stuck in the same place for years. The truth is that friends who actually care about you won't just hype you up. They'll also call you out when they see that you're not living up to your full potential. And that's not to pull you down, but it's actually to bring you higher. One of the best pieces of criticism that I got was from a friend who told me that I cared too much about what other people think about me. He was completely right, because for years I allowed the fear of judgment from other people to hold me back from doing what I actually wanted to do. Like, for so long, I procrastinated on making this YouTube channel because I was afraid of what my friends and family would think. I thought that they would find it and think that it was corny or just like whack. I knew this was the problem subconsciously, but until it was said out loud is when I was able to really confront it and realize that I couldn't keep letting that hold me back. But what I've noticed about dreams is that they don't ever really go away. They're always in the back of your mind, and they keep nudging you, bothering you, and almost haunting you until you finally step into them. Law number 5, you must live with the hurt. If necessary, live with a hurting heart rather than a closed one. Learn to stay in the wound of a pain and act with spontaneous skill and love even from that place. Pain usually makes people close off, and after a breakup or betrayal, it's so easy to close off your heart. And this is what the world tells you is strength, but in reality, it's just fear in disguise. Real strength is being able to keep your heart open and staying grounded in love and not allowing that pain to completely close you off to future opportunities. You might have every reason to be hurt, but the reality is that bitterness isn't healing and resentment won't make you feel any more powerful. If you want to be free, you have to feel the pain and then choose to rise above it. Law 6, if you don't know your purpose, discover it now. Without a conscious life purpose, a man is totally lost, drifting, adapting to events rather than creating events. Without knowing his life purpose, a man lives a weakened, impotent existence. Without a crystal clear life purpose, life feels aimless, and you'll find yourself drifting from task to task, job to job, opportunity to opportunity, hoping for something to click, but realizing that nothing ever really does. And the truth is that purpose is rarely something you just stumble upon. It's typically something that you have to pursue intentionally. And I talked about this topic pretty in depth in the drifting video, so I won't go too much in depth here, but this is foundational to everything. And there's a Japanese concept called ikigai, which translates into reason for living or reason for being. And it refers to a sense of purpose and passion that makes life meaningful and enjoyable. So aim to discover your unique purpose by aligning your skills, purpose, and values with something that society also needs. Law number 7 is don't get lost in tasks and duties. Whatever the specifics of a man's purpose, he must always refresh the transcendental element of his life through regular meditation and retreat. A man should never get lost in the details of his life and forget that ultimately life amounts to nothing other than what is the deepest truth of this present moment. It's so easy to get caught up in the little things, the emails, the to-do list, the notifications, and all those things that make you feel like you're making a lot of progress. But in reality, these little tasks aren't actually pushing your life forward. We tend to confuse activity with progress, but just because you're busy doesn't mean you're building something that matters. The key is to identify the few things that actually make a difference, that actually move the needle, and then ruthlessly cut out anything else. And this also relates to our spiritual lives, because we need time to disconnect and reflect and remember why we're doing everything that we're doing. And whether it's through prayer or solitude, we need to make sure to take the time to step away from the noise so that we're able to recenter and focus on what actually matters. Law 8 is to live as if your father were dead. A man must love his father, yet be free from his father's expectations and criticism in order to be a free man. This one hit me especially deep because I love my dad, and I'm especially grateful for everything he's poured into me. The values, the work ethic, the beliefs, everything that I hold really near and dear to my heart. But at a point in my life, I had to come to a harsh realization, which is that I cannot live his life. I think there comes a point in every person's life where you have to decide whether you're living for approval or you're living for purpose. And sometimes, whether you realize it or not, you're still making a lot of decisions with your father or your mother's voice in your head, trying to meet their expectations and trying not to disappoint them. So ask yourself what you would do if you weren't worried about meeting their expectations. Would you still choose the same career? Would you post that content? Would you make a seemingly drastic shift in your life if they weren't around to criticize or judge you? So learn to honor their influence, but don't allow it to become a prison. Law number 9 is never change your mind to please others. Growing up as a middle child, I naturally fell into the role of being a peacemaker, always trying to smooth things over between my younger brother and my older sister. And also growing up in a Nigerian household where respecting your elders is everything, I learned pretty early on that it's easier to just nod and agree with everything rather than interjecting your own opinions. But here's the problem with that. If you do that long enough, you start to lose your own voice and you stop being able to really think for yourself. And you become a more passive person, always second guessing everything. And sometimes you'll even find yourself agreeing with other people just to avoid conflict, even though deep down you know that what you're agreeing to isn't correct. I've learned that sharing your opinion clearly, confidently, and respectfully is a muscle. And if you don't do it enough, it is a skill that you will lose. So if your thoughts and opinions are well-reasoned and grounded, then you owe it to yourself to express them. Law number 10, and this is something that I did not learn from the Way of the Superior Man book, but a book that is, in my opinion, a lot more important, which is the Bible. Law number 10 is to surrender everything to God. Proverbs 3 verse 5-6 says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he will direct your path." So I've done the journaling, I've done the goal setting, I've done the hustling. Although those things help and they work, they never really gave me peace or clarity in life. And everything changed once I stopped trying to figure it out on my own and started trusting God with the outcome. You could spend your entire life chasing wealth, accomplishments, and self-improvement and still feel empty. Because what I've realized is that without a relationship with my creator, then I'm just polishing the surface rather than addressing the actual foundation. And when I started leaning on God's wisdom rather than my limited perspective, everything changed. It changed because now everything I do is grounded in something real. If you're serious about this journey, don't just watch this video, actually do something about it. Start by choosing one law that resonated with you the most and choose to apply it this week, even today, because even one small step can shift your entire direction. So to go even deeper, I've created a free template for you to really find and hone in on that purpose for your life, so you can finally stop drifting and create a life that's actually meaningful to you. Just go to the link in the description and enter your email and it'll be sent right to you. And let me know down in the comments which law you're working on and which challenges you're facing. I read every single one and know that we're all in this together. I will catch you guys in the next video, but until then, don't drift.